Hi everyone, happy Valentine's Day. That is what day it is as I record this. I think this will be a shorter message, I hope. First of all, I did send out an email yesterday, I believe, and I'm sorry I had to get all professorial on you, but if I didn't care about you and your success grade-wise, I would just let about half of you just keep not commenting as fully as I would like you to. You could just put in a couple and not get the full points, and I could just not care. But I care, so hopefully you appreciate that, even if you don't feel like you appreciate it. Okay, so this week is an exciting week for me, because one of the things I do in my non-professorial career is I help people write resumes, cover letters, and get their stuff all together. So to me, this is one of my key areas of expertise, as you will. So I'm really looking forward to seeing you put this together. And I will say that students in the past have told me that they have gotten interviews based on their cover letters and resumes when they've sent them out, and have been really successful with them. And some of them even think that having a cover letter set them apart, because it's not something that is completely standard anymore. So with that being said, I do want to just go over a couple things. Cover letters matter big time. That's one of the chapters that you're reading today, and there are a lot of great points in the chapter, or the Truth 28, about cover letters, and you really want to take a look at them. And there is a great kind of example cover letter on the last page of that chapter. And I want to say that here's how I think about the cover letter, and I encourage you to think somewhat about this. First of all, the cover letter and the resume, the only thing it's designed to do is to get you in for an interview. So you don't need to cover everything in the cover letter and the resume. You just need to get in the door. So that's the goal. Now the cover letter itself, I kind of think of it as a couple, or I should say, having three key components. Obviously, you put it in a standard letter format, standard business letter writing format, and I think it was maybe a couple of discussion posts ago where I gave you a link to how to a business letter writing format at Purdue University. I strongly recommend you go with that format, or go with one in your style manual, something like this, and go with a standard letter. So you want that set up, and then if you know who you're addressing it to, then great, use that person's name. If you don't, then Dear Human Resources is perfectly acceptable. Some people overanalyze the word dear, but it's just standard. It's like when you read a novel, for example, and over and over again it says he said, there's the quote, whatever they said, he said, and then there's some dialogue, she said, and you don't notice the he saids and she saids. It's standard. So the same is true of dear. So don't overthink that one too much if you were thinking about overthinking it. So in my mind, the cover letter, and I think you can see this somewhat in the cover letter example on page 112, the first paragraph is mainly for the HR person, the person in human resources in recruiting who gets your cover letter. And so somewhere in that first paragraph, one of the key things you want to do is be specific about the position that you are applying for. And I've asked you to find a position you would apply for. And it can be anywhere in the country. It doesn't have to be anything you're really applying for. It doesn't even have to be anything you're qualified to do right now. This is mainly for the cover letter. And if you need to enhance the cover letter a bit, if it's a position that you are not yet qualified for, then that's fine. I do think you should leave the resume as it is, based on your current experience, but I'll get to that in a minute. Anyway, in the first paragraph, make sure you're specific about the position that you're applying for. And you can see examples of what might surround that in the book itself. But think about the first paragraph as being for the HR person, okay? And then the second paragraph is really designed for what I think of as the hiring manager. The HR person has gotten your resume, they've processed it, now they send it on to the hiring manager. So that second paragraph, that's the paragraph that I recommend to my clients that's the one that you will adapt each time you send out a resume and a cover letter. You will make it specific to that position, emphasizing skills specifically requested in the job position. So that's where the bulk of your cover letter is going to happen. You don't need to overdo this. If something is very obvious in your resume, then the cover letter isn't where that needs to be. If it's not as obvious, say, like me, I used to work in radio promotions. I have not done that in years. But let's say I was applying to a position at a radio station. I would highlight that experience because it's not near the top of my resume. It might not even be on my resume except a brief little line because I've done so many other unrelated things. But if I was applying to that position now, in this paragraph, that second paragraph of the cover letter, that's where I'd emphasize that experience, and that's where I would highlight that experience so that it is one of the first things they read, and that makes it more psychologically recent as well, because resumes tend to be in the most recent position downward, so if something's in the cover letter, it's even more recent than what you got in the resume. So in any case, you want to really highlight things. If there's something that was requested in the job ad that isn't so much highlighted on your resume, but you know how to do it or you're familiar with doing it, say like budgeting was never part of your job description, but it's something you have experience with in some other way, or it's just some non-listed way, then that's something you'd want to emphasize in this paragraph. So there are other key suggestions in the chapter here, but think about that second paragraph as selling yourself to the hiring manager. And really the third paragraph here, they do it a little differently in the book, and that's it's certainly fine. They use kind of some quantifying measurements in the final paragraph. And I would say the final paragraph can go either way. You can make like a further concluding statement, but really that last paragraph is just to let them, it's that action item. We've been talking about having an action item or a specific request in a letter. That's where it happens. That's where you provide your contact information. Again, if it hopefully it was at the top. Some people put it below their signature, which is fine as well. I do think, you know, the whole idea is to make it as easy as possible to bring you in for an interview, so I am not opposed to listing it there again, and I usually do. I usually say, please, you know, I'm looking forward to speaking with you further about this position, and I might even say something specific about it, you know, about why I want to get back into it, or why I am so passionate about it, or something like that. And then I would say, please feel free to contact me at such and such email and such phone number. And then that's it. You're out. Do not go over a page. I don't recommend going over 3 paragraphs. And that should be your standard cover letter, that where you only really have to adjust the position in the first paragraph, the key stuff in the middle paragraph, and maybe update something, or especially if you put a closing line about why you're passionate about the position or something like that. But really a cover letter ends up becoming what's called a boilerplate, something that you will update on a regular basis, but can be pretty much the same. So the one other thing I want to say about cover letters and resumes as well is I strongly recommend including only one email address and one phone number. Some people like to make sure people can reach them everywhere, but if I'm a hiring manager, I want to know, I don't want to have to guess whether I should call your work phone, your home phone, or your cell phone. I just want to know which phone number you want me to call. So I recommend you just have one. If you've got 2 emails, then pick one. Use that one. And use the one that isn't, you know, foo-foo loves foo-foo at gmail.com, something like that. You want something a little more professional. Okay, so that's it for cover letters. For resumes, the book does cover, I agree with the main points in the book, which is Truth 43 on resumes. I think here's what has ended up happening in the past, and I what I want you to do is I want you to go through your resume and go through it like you know I go through it. You've seen me pick apart some of your postings with specifics and things that I notice. I want you to get in there and read your resume aloud. I myself have made errors on my resume in the past and caught it later. Make sure it doesn't say a wrong word. One time when I worked at Human Resources, somebody who apparently had a certificate in being a sign language interpreter had their resume said they were a sign language interrupter. So I must admit that whole week I kept leaping in front of people in my department and who were talking, and I would be like, I'm a sign language interrupter, you know, because you can't see the people signing if you're in between them. Anyway, I was amused. So you want to make sure your resume says what you mean it to say, and I want you to really try to take a look at what's in the chapter on the book and go back to your resume and see if it's doing what it needs to be doing. Update everything, get it ready to go. I know some of you do not have a lot of experience, and that's still okay. You still want to lay it out properly and in a decent format, even if it ends up being really short. What I'm going to end up doing, at least based on my past experience, is for a lot of people, I will actually almost redo your resume for you. Consider this a service. I mean, I'm going to give you feedback in general, you know, kind of about the grade. Mainly I'm looking to see, did you proofread it well? Does it have a standard layout? Is it, you know, following some of these key points that are in the book? That's the grade part. But kind of my feedback to you, if your resume needs it, and not every resume will, I will rewrite your resume for you. I hope you consider that a bonus, or I'll reformat it so it's not a mess, because nowadays, since they're sent electronically, the person receiving it can see if you've got all kinds of crazy coding errors in it. Some people send things PDF for that reason. For our exercise, a Word version would be better, at least for me, so that I can talk to you about some of that in my feedback to you. And if there are things that I can't fix myself in terms of format, but I can say, you know, here are some ways that you could enhance this resume here, or here's something you should add to it. Here's how you can flesh out this area in particular. So I'll be giving you a lot of feedback that way, not so much related to the grade as related to here's how you can have a damn good resume, because that's the goal, right? So I think follow a standard resume format. It says that in the book, and you can find, if you don't have a resume yet, Microsoft Word has some default resume programs, and you can use one of those. Try not to get too fancy. There are different styles of resumes, and I know that as well. So there are like management level resumes that are far different than, say, somebody who is just entering the workforce. There are technical resumes depending on industries, and some of those I may not know how that works, and so I may not touch those so much as make some general recommendations to you. But that's basically how it's gonna go down. I am looking, same as usual, for quality writing, and I'm looking to see that you are applying the concepts in our textbook. I'm dropping things in our textbook to your cover letter and resume, and hopefully at the end, when I get that stuff back to you, you will have some darn good documents. And turned out this wasn't as short as I thought it would be, but I hope that's okay. I am making it easier for you, I think, by asking you to post your cover letters in the discussion post for this week. So in some ways, you really don't have something extra there, but as I said in the discussion post instructions itself, if it were me, I would post my cover letter, doing as good a job as I could. I would take the feedback from my colleagues that I got, say between Thursday and Saturday-ish sometime, and I'd update the cover letter based on their feedback if needed, and then I would send it to my instructor. Safe Assign should work, and if it doesn't, do feel free to email me. I'll be keeping an eye out on things to see if anybody says it's not working. I do have a separate link for both the cover letter and the resume. You can feel free to include both in either one of them. If you just want to send one file, it's not a big deal. It's just I have to have separate ones so that I can have separate grades in the grade book. That's just how Blackboard works. So that's the deal there, and if you have any questions, feel free to email me, post in the FAQ, and I think that's about it. Also, I have a new desktop microphone, and I hope it is working well for you all. Take care, and happy Valentine's Day, and have a good week.